Gym class was always one of Appleblooms' favorites. She knew a lot of the other girls couldn't stand it, but the physical exertion always made her feel good. And perhaps even better was the shower that came afterwards. It was like eating a succulent apple pie she'd helped make. It was well earned and all the sweeter for it. Today was no different. She thought with a smile as she stood under the shower spray and let the cascade down her body, which was all well toned from years of helping Applejack and Big Macintosh on the farm. When she was done, she turned off the shower head and shook out her hair on her way through the shower. Several of the other girls tossed their strange glances, and she could hear low whispers as she passed, but nobody spoke up at a volume she could hear. Applebloom tried to ignore them, plucking her towel from the rack by the locker room entrance and drying herself off as she made her way towards her locker. Skula was already at the locker behind hers, undoing her lock and opening it open. Nice kicks out there, Applebloom. I think you kick harder than I do. Thanks. It just worked out a lot on the arm. Applebloom opened her own locker and began to get dressed. Hey, did you notice something of the girls acting a bit weird just now? Weird? Like how? I don't know. They were giving me some funny looks. Applebloom glanced over at Diamond Tiara surrounded by a small group of girls nearby. They were held close talking in hushed tones, and Applebloom could swear more eyes flitted toward her. Did I do something weird out there on the field? Nah, you're fine. You should just ignore them. Skulu slipped her shirt uncomfortably. You know better than to care what they think. Yeah, I guess. Somehow this didn't make Applebloom feel any better, but she buried her concerns as she zipped up her jeans and reached for her bra. She fitted it carefully into place and reached back to pull the straps together behind her, but it felt strangely tight. No matter how hard she pulled, it didn't quite come together, and it began to squeeze uncomfortably on her breasts. Ugh, come on, not again. Something wrong? Skulu turned toward her, then lifted one eyebrow. My bra won't fit, Applebloom protested. Seriously? What did you do? Actually gain a cup size during gym? I know you're uh, growing fast, but that seems a bit ridiculous even for you. Don't ask me, I didn't choose to have this happen. Ugh. I'm gonna have to go buy all new ones again now. Great. More money out the window. Applebloom sighed. Here, maybe you're doing it wrong. Let me give it a shot. Skulu moved around behind her. Moments later, the straps were taken from Applebloom's fingers, and the bra began to tightly sharpen around her breasts, while Skulu grunted in an effort. Ga- ah! Ow, 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 ow! Applebloom gasped in pain. Skulu! There! Skulu groaned and tugged even harder. Applebloom clenched her fists and teeth against the pain as her friend pulled, determined to get this to work. Suddenly, however, Skulu's hand slipped and the bra shot from her torso like a rubber band, slamming into the back of Diamond Tiara's head. Hey! Diamond Tiara's hand jerked back to pull the bra off her head, then turned to glare at Applebloom. Seriously? Eh. Applebloom blushed. Sorry, Diamond Tiara. It kinda got away from me there. Oh, whatever. Diamond Tiara marched up to her and flung the bra in her face. Of course, throwing those giant things around is always an accident, isn't it? Excuse me? Applebloom retorted. I didn't throw anything around. Yeah, right. Diamond Tiara waved off her statement. Guess when all you've got is a nice body, you've got nothing else to flaunt anyway. Hey, that's not true at all. Skilla stepped up to defend her friend. Appleblooms is kind and caring, way more than you've ever been or will ever be. Psh, whatever. Diamond Tiara shrugged her off too as she turned back to her friends. Like we care if you want to show off the only assets that make you worth anything. Appleblossom gripped her large bra in both hands, staring down at her worriedly as Diamond Tiara left. Does does everybody feel like that about me? Applebloom asked. What? Don't be stupid. She's just being Diamond Tiara. Skilly rolled her eyes. You're great, Applebloom, and you have a lot more going for you than those. She pointed at Applebloom's bare chest. Though, uh, given that your bra doesn't fit, I guess you'll have to go the old-fashioned way until you can get a new one. Yeah, I guess. With a blush, Applebloom reached for her shirt and slid it on. She was suddenly keenly aware of how filled out her chest really was, especially without a bra holding her breasts back. They seemed to sway and ripple with every motion. She really wasn't even sure how she had never noticed before. I don't know. Maybe I should go home and get one of Applejack's. In the middle of the school day? There isn't time, and besides, you're fine. Skulu slipped a companionable arm around Applebloom's shoulder and turned to lead her out of the locker room. You're an amazing girl for way more reasons than just your hot body. Did you just call me hot? It's an objective fact. Anyway, my next class is algebra, so I'll catch up with you after school. Yeah, of course. Catch you later, Scoots. Applebloom waved after her friend, then turned to make her way to her next class. Applebloom walked through the school hallways after gym, feeling the heat stinging on her cheeks. It felt like her breasts were jiggling every time her feet touched the floor, and half of the students she passed were looking at her. She tried to shake her head and tell herself she was being silly. They were not staring at her. The thought kept creeping back to her. Those are totally fake, she heard one voice whisper from the crowd, followed by airy giggles. Can you imagine being that shallow? Not even a bra? Jeez, what a show-off. Another whisper came from the crowd. Glad I have a personality and don't have to rely on my boobs to get attention. She's gonna have so much back pain later in life, and deserves her right. Applebloom wrapped her arms over her breasts and picked up her pace, hurrying to her locker and prying it open quickly with one hand. She was grateful for a short reason to bury her front in her locker as she pulled out her book. She took a few extra moments to steady herself before slamming the locker shut and nearly jumping out of her skin when she saw a boy approaching from behind the door. Whoa, sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Tender taps held up his hands with a defensive smile. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Applebloom forced a smile on her lips. I've just been having kind of a weird day today. How are you? You know, same old, same old. Tender cocked his head curiously as he stared at her. You look a bit different today. Do I? Applebloom gulped. Yeah, I can't quite put my finger on it. Tender taps stared at her curiously. Then his eyes swept down her body briefly. She could see his eyes sparkle slightly as they settled on her chest. Appleblossom glanced down and nearly let out an audible cry when she saw that her nipples were stiff against her blouse and highly visible. You, you, you look good, though. Uh, Applebloom coughed awkwardly in one hand as her other arm tried to slide discreetly in front of her chest. Thank you, Tender Taps. Yeah, Tender Taps' eyes moved back to Applebloom's with a bright smile. His own cheeks were deeply flushed. I, uh, I was actually wondering if you were busy after school. You could, you know. His eyes drifted downward again, despite her arm covering her stiff nipples. He shook his head, almost visibly jerking his eyes upwards again. Get dinner. Come on, get dinner with me. I mean, you could, and want to. Go with me out to dinner. Oh, Applebloom blushed. It wasn't the first time he had asked her out. They had gone out and had a really good time on several occasions. But something about the way he was looking at her was making her nervous. I'm sorry, Tinder. I promised I would go straight home after school today. Farm work, you know. Oh, of course. I totally understand. Tinder backed away from her casually, though she could see his eyes flickering down to her breasts a couple more times. Well, we'll just have to go out tomorrow. Or not. Or, never is you good. I mean, good for you. Yeah, thanks. I'll let you know. Appleblossom waved after him until he finally seemed to jerk his eyes away from her and walked somewhat stiffly away from her down the hallway. Her whole face felt like it was spoiling as she whirled to rush down the hallway to her next class with her book clenched tightly to her chest with both arms. Somehow she managed to make it through the rest of the day, rushing from class to class as quickly as possible with her arms around her breasts. She raced out of the school the moment the bell rang, making a straight line to Big Mac's truck out in the parking lot, leaping in before her siblings even arrived. Applebloom? Applejack looked back at her curiously as she climbed in the passenger seat. Are you okay back there? I'm fine, Applebloom retorted curtly. Applejack and Big Mac exchanged a glance, but didn't say anything more as Big Mac started the truck and turned towards Sweet Apple Acres on the edge of town. Once they arrived, Applebloom jumped out of the car and moved to rush inside, but Applejack called after her. Don't forget we have some wood to chop tonight. I expect you out here to help us ASAP. Applebloom waited behind her before slipping into her room and slamming the door, leaning against it. She glared down at her own chest with a soft growl. Stupid boobs. I wish I didn't have to deal with you anymore. Humph. She marched across the room, sliding on an airy white tank top that did absolutely nothing to conceal the offending body parts. She slipped on the pink square over it in the hopes of looking at least a bit more decent. Looking in the mirror, she could still see her breasts through the cloth, so she grabbed a thin jacket from her closet and zipped tightly up before marching out front, where the others were already weighing with axes. Applebloom? Applejack looked over in surprise, flopping her axe down on the grass. She was now wearing a light tank top of her own, which was already soaked with sweat. What are you doing? It's the middle of summer. You're gonna overheat wearing that. Yep, Beg Macintosh agreed, topless himself. I'm fine. Appleblossom approached the third wood pile and plucked her own axe from the grass with practiced ease. Her two older siblings exchanged another worried glance. Appleblossom just ignored them, setting up one of the smaller logs before winding it up to split it cleanly in half with a mighty grunt. She tried to focus on cutting the wood before her, setting up a log, chopping it down, setting it up, chopping it down, setting it up, chopping it down. She had gotten pretty good at it since Applejack had started making her do it a few years back. She barely even got tired anymore after almost 45 minutes of it. Today, however, she had to fight off an odd sense of wooziness as she hefted her axe overhead. She shook her head as she tightened her grip on the axe handle and brought it down, slinging the wood cleanly down the center, just the way her sister had taught her. She jerked on the axe handle, but suddenly it felt like it weighed 100 pounds. She grunted and tried again, but the axe remained fastened firmly to the stump. Applebloom? Applejack's voice sounded like it was coming from far away as Applebloom blinked slowly. Applebloom! It felt like a blink, but when she opened her eyes, she found herself lying on the living room couch. She could still feel the sweat coating her body, and there was a cold wash rag draped over her forehead. There you are, sugar. Applejack smiled and reached up to press the rag tighter to her forehead. Don't you try to move. You might feel a bit sick. What happened? Applebloom asked. You didn't listen to me. Applejack chuckled and shook her head. Why'd you have to go and learn to be as stubborn as me? But Applebloom glanced down, realizing that her coat and sweater were missing. Her white tank top was now coated with sweat and hardly hid anything. She blushed and tried to discreetly hide her breasts with both arms, but Applejack's eyes caught everything, as they always did. I think I see the problem. Applejack smiled kindly up at her face. You do? Sure. Applejack ran the cold rush rag down around her neck and the top of her chest. Wasn't that long ago that I was your age, you know. Did something happen at school today? Was a boy making lewd comments or some girl making mean ones? A bit of both, I guess. My bra stopped fitting. Appleblossom blushed, so I had to spend the rest of the day without it. It was like everybody was dreaming differently. Boys were looking at me more, and girls were making comments about me, saying that I was shallow or some kind of show-off. I never intended to show off. I didn't even ask for these. I know. You don't gotta tell me. Applejack sighed as she dipped a wash rag in a bowl of water and carefully placed it across Applebloom's forehead again. Don't pay them any mind, Applebloom. Some people don't know how to feel better about themselves without tearing down someone they're jealous of. That's so stupid, Applebloom grunted. I always try to do right by everybody I can. But because I'm in shape and my breasts don't stop growing, suddenly I'm shallow and selfish? What matters is that you know it ain't true. And that the people who love you know it ain't true. Applejack took her hand comfortably, pulling it away from her chest. So don't you let them make you ashamed, no matter what your body looks like now, or what it looks like later. Someone who talks like that ain't someone worth worrying about. You hear me? Yeah, I guess. Applebloom sighed. Does that mean I just gotta get used to everybody staring at them? Applejack laughed. Well, they sure ain't going nowhere. It's gonna happen. Great. So Tindertap's never gonna stop looking at them again, huh? Or any other boy. Applejack smirked. Did he say anything rude to you? Make you feel uncomfortable? Not really. He asked me out to dinner. He just kept staring at my breasts. It was a bit weird. Applejack chuckled. Don't hold it against him too badly. Boy that age is gonna look whether he wants to or not. Applejack smiled. From my experience, once you get used to him, he'll put his focus back on where it should be. Or you can just leave him if he stops respecting you. It's up to how he makes you feel. Being hot is so complicated. Being human is complicated. Applejack assured her swiftly. Hot, ugly, tall, short, boy, girl. It don't really matter none. We all got our lives to deal with, and all of it comes with its own baggage. You don't want to know some of the situations Rainbow Dash has told me about over the years. What matters is that you make the best of what you got, no matter what it is. And don't let anybody tell you that what you got is worth less than what they got. Okay, Applejack, Applebloom smiled. I'll try to keep it in mind. Great. My second life lesson of the day is don't lair in the middle of summer if you don't want to pass out, for goodness sake. Appleblossom laughed lightly. Yeah, I think I've learned that lesson pretty well. Glad to hear it. Applejack patted her arm before standing up. You stay here a bit longer. I'm gonna go help Big Mac finish up the wood cutting. Then we can figure out something for dinner. Maybe after that we can go bra shopping. Okay, thanks, Applejack. Appleblossom opened her arms to her big sister, who accepted the warm hug with a pat on her back, then turned her head outside to help their big brother. The next day, Applebloom was at her locker once again, ignoring the drowning comments from the other students around her. She decided to wear one of her old shirts, though after Applebloom had recovered, she and Applejack had gone out later in the evening for some new bras. She felt a lot less nervous wearing it, less exposed to the rest of the world somehow. Despite what Applejack had said, the idea of everyone else just staring at her still made her feel just a bit nervous. Hey, Applebloom? Applebloom looked up in surprise at a light tap on her shoulder. Then she turned to find Tendertap standing behind her with a slightly nervous smile on his lips. Hang it, Tendertaps. Applebloom smiled back as she turned fully towards him. I just want to apologize if I was being stupid yesterday. Tender rubbed the back of his neck nervously. His eyes flickered rapidly down to her chest again before he blinked and looked back up. I don't mean to be rude. I don't know what got into me. It's like you're just so beautiful. I don't want to think that's, you know, all I care about, and Tender. Applejack put a gentle hand to his arm. I know that ain't all you care about. And I'm sorry I acted so weird yesterday too. It wasn't you personally. It was just me noticing something I never noticed before. Really? Like what? Nothing you need to worry about. Applebloom smiled. He smiled back, his eyes remaining solidly before locked on hers, for the time being at least. Hey, do you think I can take up you on that dinner tonight? Really? I mean, yeah, of course I can. Tender smiled back and opened his arms to step toward her, but he halted before he reached her, looking down at her chest again. I, uh, Aldous stepped forward to give him a hug, ignoring her breasts pressing into his chest. She couldn't suppress a soft giggle when she felt them stiffen slightly as his arms closed around her with a soft squeak from his throat. This is nice. He breathed unsteadily. Yeah, it really is. Appleblossom pulled back after a moment and took his hand. Come on. Let's walk to our next class together. That sounds like fun. Appleblossom knocked her locker closed and turned to head down the hallway with him, clenching his hand tightly in hers. She ignored the occasional wry glare that came her way from some of the girls leaning against lockers, and especially the look of venom she got from Diamond Tiara. None of them mattered. One of the few people who mattered was the one she was pulling along with her. And he was happy with her. He was happy with all of her.